Join us as we dive into the history, hauntings, and high strangeness of the world to try to better understand the paranormal. I will be your guide. I am paranormal researcher and investigator Eric Freeman-Sims. Welcome to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This week we're chatting with paranormal investigator Billy Wilkerson. Billy is the founder of Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Paranormal Research and the librarian for the Simpson County Historical Society Museum and Archives in Franklin, Kentucky. Today we're going to chat about the history and hauntings of the Old Stone Jail and the Museum and Archives building. The jail and museum are available for paranormal investigations, and they have many public events throughout the year. They're also open Tuesday through Saturday for tours, research, and for visiting the museum. I'll put links in all the show notes as usual. Hey, Billy, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
No problem. So I was just recently up at the jail and the Historical Society doing a public event, and we had a blast. It was so active. How did you get involved with the Historical Society and with kind of running the investigations and stuff for the jail? Well,
it took me quite a bit of convincing to the board members here about allowing the paranormal tours and, hosting teams and everything. But their biggest thing was they didn't want to turn into like a paranormal attraction. They wanted to keep the history and the paranormal all combined in one. They wanted to, have all the history to mix in with the paranormal, so to speak.
Right.
That's what we ended up doing. We came in as just an initial investigation just to see if there's any activity. And then after we did a couple of sessions over a period of time, we was able to connect the inmates that are still here along with over at the historical building. Same thing. We have a lot of employees there that are still there from previous businesses.
So let's start off with the archives and the museum building. You kind of touched on a little bit that some of the employees are still there. What was that building originally used for? When was it built, and what was it originally used for?
It was built in 1908 for a company called Enterprise. And Enterprise back then was a service center and sales location for Model T cars.
And so they kind of worked on them there, and then also was a kind of a dealership. And when I was up there, one of the things I found interesting about that was that the original elevator is still there that they took Model T cars up to the second floor on.
Yeah, they did service work. They had the pit and everything on the first floor, and then they did like just other repairs on the second floor also. But it was not only that, but it was like a shirt factory at one point in time for a couple of decades. It's just got a lot of history to the building, and I think it was even the fire department building there in the 20s. But there's just a lot of history to that place.
And with the car dealership and the mechanic shop there and the shirt factory, do y'all have any documented deaths to explain why it would be haunted or anything like that?
We've had a couple of documented deaths there. Once when it was a machine shop, with the Enterprise company. And then, they had a lot of child labor when it was a shirt factory. And I think that's the reason we've had a couple of children that are still there.
Yeah, when you were giving us investigators the tour, we actually had two investigators hear some kids giggling behind them just while you were in the middle of the day while we're walking around the building and then upstairs. That was pretty interesting for the activity to start as soon as, we haven't even started the event yet, but we're just taking a tour.
Yeah. Well, it's on Mondays, I'm here strictly by myself, just doing maintenance and cleaning stuff up and getting exhibits put up. But, I have to use my headphones to listen to music the whole time I'm here, because if not, I get distracted, with voices in general and noises like walking and, the footsteps are just crazy because, the wood floors here just carry sound, all the time over here. But even during the day, it's pretty active.
Yeah, I was upstairs there by myself setting a camera up after we took the tour, and I actually heard a woman's voice behind me as I was walking, fixing to go back down the stairs. Yeah, and just got that feeling somebody was watching me, like all the hair stands up on your body, and you kind of pick up your pace a little bit, like somebody's right behind you.
Yeah, the upstairs kind of gets you feeling a little uneasy.
Yeah, and downstairs y'all have a whole museum area dedicated to different eras in history and different families and things. Have you found that throughout your investigations that there's any spirits attached to any of the artifacts that you have that may not be original to the building?
Well, I always add artifacts. There's always something coming in these doors on the daily. It's always got some type of connection to something that's going on there. But the odd twist to that building is I've got a family there, and they're only hanging out in one part of this building. Information that I know is that their last name is Hunter. They're connected to Bethpage, Tennessee. I know all their names. I talk to them, every time I'm coming to do a session or invite a team in. They're always there. They're always ready to talk to you. But it seems like they're going through their daily lives, like something like if I ask where little Stan's at, which he's 7, he's either out in the field working or he's, doing some type of chores or something of that nature. It's really weird. And I have not found a connection why they're even there yet. And I've been doing the research here for over 3 years now.
Yeah, that's interesting that there's this random family would be there responding. And when we were doing the event, we had a team who thought they connected to a little girl. I believe her name is Emily.
Yes, that's her.
Yeah, she's part of that family too. And then also in that building, there's lots of reports, and we even experienced some of this, of shadow figures in a couple of different areas.
Yeah. In
the upstairs y'all's kind of workshop space where the elevator that I was talking about goes up to, the first place that we went with our group, me and the other investigator, Lee, was up in that area. And immediately one of the people in our group were taking pictures with their cell phone in the dark. There was a little bit of light, and he caught what looked like a shadow figure on the back wall. And then I decided to set up a laser grid, and I was kind of seeing the laser grid kind of go weird with my own eyes. And then we had a lady that had her own night vision camera, and looking at the laser grid through the night vision, you could see a little bit more of like shadow play on the laser grid. So that was really interesting.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then downstairs, I believe you mentioned there was a shadow figure, and it may be the same one that's upstairs. He kind of goes downstairs where the fire truck is as well. Yeah.
He does not communicate much at all. Anytime we do like Estes method down there, it seems like he come across as Joe, but his communication is really minimal. He usually likes hanging around the fire engine. He kind of paces back and forth. He kind of sees. I think he kind of just watches what we're doing down there most of the time.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what's going on. Is there any other parts of that building? Because we really didn't go into the big museum area or in the kind of conference area. Is there any claims in those two areas?
Well, the conference room, the piano gets played every once in a while. They like striking a key, like a little minor key on the piano every once in a while. We talked to several different people there. Another child, of course. The front upstairs where the research center is, I'm always, anytime when I have a team here, I'm always setting up there, kind of overseeing everything, make sure everything's running right. And a lot of times I have the sensation if somebody's behind me, or you can hear footsteps or conversations, behind, wherever you're setting that in there. But the building is quite active. I've always loved hearing the stories that when people comes in to investigate what they come across, and I always like sharing my information too with them.
Yeah, and I had an interesting experience. Y'all were setting up front in that area that you're talking about, kind of the research area, the library area, and the bathrooms were right there. And it was pretty much dark throughout the museum, but I was going to the restroom, and the light was on, and they're motion sensor lights, but the light was already on, but nobody had been in there. And as I was approaching the door, there's a gap, and I could see what looked like a shadow walk inside the bathroom. So I was expecting to open the door, and somebody was like at the sink.
Yeah.
And I went in there, and when I came out, I went and asked y'all, if that ever happens. And y'all were like, yeah, we were just sitting here last night and, watching the motion sensor light go on and off on its own.
Yeah. Yeah. That happens more than I like to admit to. Like I said, the building is really active. I always love just hearing stories of people having experiences.
Yeah. I haven't been able to go through my audio yet, but I'm curious to see if I caught any audio stuff, because there definitely was plenty of visual going on in that building. And then we go across the street to the jail and the Old Stone Jail and the jailer's quarters, and that's just a completely different type of energy and type of hauntings, because the archive building to me was a lot more mellow. but you go over to the jail part and it's a lot more intense and kind of thicker, heavier energy. So what's the story with the jail and the history behind it? Because I know it was like, what, the fourth jail built in Simpson County?
Well, those stone jail is actually the third. And the jailer's residence, a lot of people don't know this, but the far two rooms over there was actually the second jail that was built here in Simpson County in 1830. And then the other two rooms was added in 1840 for the jailer's residence, which is the brick building that you see next to the street. And then in 1879, they completed construction of the limestone jail. And again, it's made entirely of limestone from the footers up. It's all the floors. There's a couple of videos that's been put up here and there, but it has a lot of energy with it, and it gets really heavy. A lot of people, talks about how heavy it is to breathe in some of these rooms. The energy is so crazy. But what we have going over here, it actually goes with the history of the jail.
Yeah, and the cells that you're talking about in the jailer's quarters, of course, town squares burnt down, so records were lost, but there's some graffiti on the wall, and y'all believe that was actually from Confederate soldiers that were held there.
Yeah, the story is, of course, here in our town, our courthouse and records was lost to a fire in 1882. So anything prior to 1882, it's always just folklore, hearsay, so on and so forth. But that one jail cell up there, we do know for a fact that after the Civil War, the Union took over the town and it housed all the Confederate sympathizers, and that was men, women, and children. And they stayed there for months on end. But yes, when we was restoring the building in 1992, they was taking off the wood paneling and they found the graffiti art that was left there by, prisoners, which was Civil War soldiers and deserters and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And that room is a really heavy energy. And there's a spirit in there of a lady who doesn't take kindly to men. I mean, to other women.
Yeah, well, yes. She's down there in the office area of the jail. She does not like women whatsoever. She always tells the women to get out and, to leave immediately.
Yeah, and the upstairs of the jailer's quarters was a different feel as well. It's a lot thicker feeling up in that area than I noticed in the downstairs of the jailer's quarters. Yes,
I'm always connected to that room. Anytime when I come in here to do an investigation with myself or my team, I'm always drawn to that room, and I can literally sit up in that jail cell all night long and have conversations with other individuals. I have one guy up there. His name is Robert Sr., and me and him did not get along whatsoever for the longest time. He was always trying to, tell me that, I need to leave, or he wants to kill me, so on and so forth. We've just butted heads, a couple of years, but I think we're getting along pretty good now. But yeah, that room up there it's really special.
Yeah, and then going over to the stone jail part, it's really interesting construction because it's these giant limestone blocks. And so the good thing about that is you don't get a lot of contamination from outside if you got cars driving by and stuff. There's not a whole lot of that. And I was surprised there's not a whole lot of echo in there either. Other jails that I've been in that I've investigated, you got to worry about echo when you're doing EVP sessions and things like that. But very different energy from the bottom floor to the top floor on that side too. There's a bunch of interesting stories about people who were in jail there. I remember one story about a guy who killed his landlord and the guy that came with him to evict him and his family, and then he turned himself in, and then a gang of men came and drug him out and hung him.
Yes, it was late 1800s where two individuals murdered a family over that ordeal, and then they end up one of the brothers turned himself in, and then they end up going after the other one. And once they got him here in the jail that night, a mob of people came and took the jail over, and without incidents to any of the deputies, and they end up taking them out of their cells and hanging them outside. Yes.
Yeah, and that seems to be a common theme across a lot of, I know, especially in Tennessee, a lot of the small towns, I'm sure probably across the United States, kind of the vigilante justice back then. I've heard lots of stories about Murfreesboro, Gallatin, Franklin, all of them having these mobs that come in and drag these people out and just hang them before they even get a trial. It's interesting how all these small towns have such a common history. You know, the courthouse is burning down, the square is burning down multiple times, and then you have this vigilante justice. It's just interesting how back in those days it was such a different environment and different time than what we live in now.
No, exactly.
And so y'all shut the top of the jail off from people for a while because of a nasty spirit that hangs out of there.
Yeah, I'm still leery about letting people go up, but I always kind of forewarn, give them an option to go up when they come and investigate here. And what started all this was when my team started to do the investigation here. Anytime when a woman goes on the second floor of the jail, they would either get touched or a piece on the butt, like, you know, something very inappropriate. But it was like it was evidence, and it was kind of like a hee hee ha ha type moment, you know, like, you know, this really happened. And then it started getting more aggressive with women. And then the ladies on my team was starting to get more uncomfortable. So we started doing more aggressive sessions to where we was asking more inappropriate questions, so to speak. And after we have a couple of sessions like that, we kind of figure out, you know, what this person was at that point in time. So I did more research because I felt like he was a rapist. And after the research that I did here, because I can go back to the late 1800s on newspapers here in Franklin, and I found out that there was 4 rapists that were stored here in this jail. So the next session that we did, I took the 4 names and started asking the same questions, and he answered to one of those names, and he told me the year that he was in here, which corresponded with the newspaper. And then he began to tell us the names of all the women that he raped. So right then and there, I was so disgusted with the whole situation. And the ladies did not feel any more comfortable about going upstairs. So we just shut it off for investigators for nearly a year. So the more I kind of reached out to my fellow investigators and a lot of our friends that asked them the same questions, what would you do if you was in this situation and had this problem, this issue? And a lot of them all said the same thing, is this is what we do. This is what we come to find out. You know, it's evidence. So I started letting people come back in, and sure enough, you know, he's still up there going about his business.
Yeah, I caught an interesting photo up there that I'd sent to you. A lot of people see a face in it, but it's this green. I don't know how to describe it. I put it up on my Facebook for people to check it out, but it's definitely one of the more interesting photos I've ever caught. And there was nobody behind me, and there's no reason for a green light, so I don't know where the green came from. But never had anything green show up in any of my pictures.
Yeah, we've had a purple mist on the first floor of the jail before, but I seen that picture that you're talking about, and it really kind of dumbfounded me because I've never seen the green mist before like that.
Yeah, and in the picture, the only light that I didn't take it with a flash or anything. The only light that was available was there's a gentleman who was a guest of ours that had a night vision camera, and the white light from the viewfinder shining on his face, and this thing is kind of behind him, what looks like it coming out of one of the jail cells across the hallway. And some people have said it looks like a face, like a head and a face, and I can see where they're seeing that. I go back and forth of, okay, is it pareidolia? You know, is your brain just trying to make sense of it, or is it, you know, an actual face there?
Right.
But yeah, definitely interesting, the jail and the history. It's all fascinating. And the fact that it just was an active night all night. I don't think we even went much and investigated in the jailer's quarters because we were just getting so much activity in the jail side, the Stone jail side, that everybody wanted to stay over there. So downstairs in the back cell on the left, we had a lot of interaction with the K2 and with a motion light. Somebody had placed a motion light in there that they had brought with them, and and it was going off in response to our questions. So I found that interesting. I like the motion lights a little better than with the flashlight. I think the motion lights aren't as fallible as the flashlight trick is.
Yeah. Any type of K2 REM pod flashlights, I mean, they all work pretty good here.
Yeah, it was a great night. Lots of activity. What is because you said you have experiences all the time because you're there by yourself, and what do you think is the most predominant experience that you've ever had happen to you there?
I would have to say shadow figures. I see them quite a bit. They kind of rush me every once in a while, especially back here in the museum. It's kind of on the daily, and plus the voices. Any time I'm in any room in either one of these buildings, I'm always hearing conversations.
Yeah, I've had that happen. It's like a conversation that you're not privy to listening to. You can just hear a conversation going on in the background.
Yeah.
Do you think it's mostly intelligent hauntings there, or do you think there's also residual stuff?
I think there's a lot of residual, but most of it's pretty intelligent. A lot of these guys that are here, anytime I'm doing a session, they always know me by my name. They call me a couple of different things here. They call me the keeper. They call me the boss. They call me by my name. So anytime we're having conversations, they're always calling me one or the other.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And for a place to be so active, it definitely didn't disappoint when we were there. And it sounds like most investigators that come up there have a really good night of investigating and get lots of evidence and have lots of personal experiences as well.
Yeah, if people comes in positive, they're going to get positive results here, no doubt.
So do y'all have anything coming up with the Old Stone Jail and the museum and archives?
We're going to have our annual meet and greet in November. We're looking forward to it. It's when we actually invite paranormal teams and individuals to come up here to have, I guess, just a day of activity of just meeting people instead of having, seeing faces on Facebook or talking to people on Facebook. You actually can come up here, see everybody, meet a lot of good friends, a lot of good people, a lot of good like-minded people like us, that's open to this field. And we talk about issues that people are having. We try to just keep an open mind, and we just enjoy just having people here just come visit.
And you got anything coming up with Whiskey Tango Foxtrot?
Well, we are actually working on a couple different more locations here in Franklin. We're kind of kicking around, maybe doing a haunt the town, because we've got several businesses just a block from us, which is the square here, that are been wanting us to come and investigate because they're having a lot of issues. And we actually did an investigation over the weekend for a coffee shop and a dog groomer, which they're side by side and they're having the same issues. And we actually had a lot of good activity, and we're considering on starting inviting some more teams to come down and haunt the town, more or less. They're going to have their options between the jail, the museum, and a couple of businesses. And I actually got a school about 2 blocks away, which was built in 1901, that is kind of turned into an apartment complex. But the cafeteria, which is in the basement, has crazy activity. We did 2 sessions, and we've had things thrown at us. We've had voices. We've had shadows. I mean, that was a good investigation that night.
Yeah, that'll be cool to kind of get to go around the square and investigate all different locations, because I'm sure there's, just like any other little squares, there's plenty of history there to cause the hauntings.
Well, we're fortunate here in Franklin that, I guess like 10 years ago, a lot of old businesses was kind of closed. Well, they didn't talk about the paranormal, more or less, because it was kind of taboo back in, because businesses didn't want to be known as being haunted. But now we're fortunate enough to have like a younger style generation to own businesses, and they're more open to having something of this to go on now. And they're wanting to know what's happening there instead of not talk about it.
Right. And y'all are also just right down the road from Octagon Hall.
Yeah, we're 5 miles south of Octagon.
Yeah, so I tell anybody, if you're going up, you can go check out Octagon Hall, go check out the Old Stone Jail and the museum and stuff. They're both amazing locations to investigate. and also just to go take a history tour, because the history of all three of those buildings are pretty interesting.
Yeah, I encourage. I'm always here from Monday through Thursday. So if anybody wants to stop by and come and see me, I'm here to 4:00 about every day. And or if they want to contact me for after hours tour, I'll be glad to do that too.
All right, Billy, thank you so much for coming on and chatting today. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for having me, and hope to hear from you soon.
Yeah, I look forward to coming back up and investigating again. We had a really good time.
Holler at me anytime.
All right, everybody, stay safe out there. Thank you for listening. Have a good day. Join us next time for a new episode of The Unseen Paranormal. Until then, head over to the Unseen Paranormal Lounge on Facebook for all the latest updates and discussions about the show. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, or at unseenparanormalpodcast.com. And please rate, review, share, and subscribe to help more people discover the show. The Unseen Paranormal Podcast is proud to be the ambassador for paranormal for Verbal.com. A big thank you to my friend Chris Lips for the awesome theme music. You can find more of his music on Apple, Amazon, or Spotify. And as always, thank you for listening.
You have come to the end of the line.